Hello everybody, welcome to Coco's Crochet. I'm Litza, and oh my goodness, I'm an exhausted Litza coming to you after a good night's sleep because the market weekend is now done and dusted. So I thought it's best I come on while it's still all fresh in my mind to share everything that happened with you. Now, I have got a little timeline here, a few little bits and pieces that I wanted to share with you and what I came away with, and also what I sold and what I made at the end of the day. Now, the timeline goes like this. So about 6 weeks ago now, I decided that I really wanted to do a market, and I started to apply, and I did get the okay from the Sydney Artisans Markets. They did have the option or opportunity for stall holders to either have 1 or 2 days, the 12th and or the 13th of April 2025, and I opted to do both days. You know, being my very first market experience, I really wanted to make it worthwhile and also get a taste of, you know, what a Saturday would be like and a Sunday. Let me tell you, I've learned so much along the way, and I know that I have so much more to learn. Before I even get started into this, I just want to thank each and every one of you for your love and support throughout this. Those of you that do markets, oh my gosh, I take my hat off to you. The fact that you do them more regularly than I probably ever will is just amazing. And I even received, like, you know, phone calls and emails, I should say messages and emails on the day of the market wishing me the best. So you guys not only have been great cheerleaders, but wonderful yarny friends, and I really do appreciate that. I wanted to make sure that I said that now because there is so much to get through that I did not want it to forget that. Now, so we said 6 weeks ago, we secured the markets, paid for them, paid for insurance, and started to make some inventory, quite a few items at that, I must say, which I've shared with you along the way. And then it was time to bump in. So we arrived at the markets on the Friday night, and we found our designated area and we set up. So it was Steve and I that set up, and this was after work, so it would have been anywhere between 5 and 7 o'clock that we were there. So I'm going to just break away for a moment so I can put a little snippet, a tiny little video that I took of the setup at the end of it. Or it might have been the next morning because my sister's in the background, I'm pretty sure, because she was hanging out with me all day Saturday. So let me just break away from now, and I'll see you in just a jiff. Okay, so that was pretty much it for the 2 days. Of course, as you know, items were sold, we would tweak it around a little bit. I changed the backdrop a couple of times. You might have seen some of my blankets and crocheted pieces hanging off one of those clothes racks in the back, right behind the center table. And then behind that, there was also a workshop area. So I had another rack as well with more granny square items because it was a granny square workshop. But I will be bringing you a separate video for that because it is, you know, it was a bit of a highlight of the whole experience. So I wanted to keep it separate. So it's now Saturday morning. So my sister and I, we arrived at around 8:40 p.m. because as I said, I had to tweak it a little bit from the night before. We added a few things, which was probably not a great idea, but it is what we did. Now, I must say that we had a lot of fun, my sister and I. My sister made friends with everybody, every stall owner. She went and said hello. She bought quite a few things, including lots of food for us. It was a fun day, I must say. When I was in the workshop area for that hour or just over an hour, my sister did man the shop. So that was really good. And like I said, we had a really great day. So thank you, Nicole, for hanging out with me for the whole of Saturday. So we arrive at 8:40. The doors open at 10. So in the meantime, we've had a coffee. The organisers did give a free coffee to all the stall holders every single day, which I thought was very generous and kind of them. We all know we need caffeine in the morning. So then we get through the day with my sister. We finished just after 3. We didn't have to pack up, but we covered everything up. Now, in the meantime, I need to give a huge shout out and invite you all to please go and visit these 2 beautiful humans. They're actually friends of my son, and they've started their own podcast and YouTube channel called the RDO Show. Now, I asked the organisers of the markets to invite them to come across because they actually gave free advertising to everybody. So they interviewed each and every stall holder more than once, spoke in depth about what we did, and why we were there and what our passions were. And it was just an amazing day to see 2 young people that I've seen grow up now having, a show of their own that they're sharing with everyone. They're very, very new, but I highly recommend that you go and see them. Even if you don't want to watch every video they put out, this one I'm sure you're going to enjoy. So that was Saturday, done and dusted, dropped my sister off at home, went and visited my mum for a little bit, and then went home exhausted, guys. I had lost my voice because I didn't stop talking all day, as you can imagine. Steve had to bring in all the washing and, just looked after dinner. Well, I literally just sat, crocheted, and just, decompressed. So that was my Saturday, and we had to do it all again on Sunday. Now, Steve and we arrived at about 9:10 a.m. the next morning. It was really nice because the stall holders that we had been talking to, we had now become friends. So, you're saying good morning to each other and, how did you go and things like that. So that was a really nice feeling because the very first day, it was all so foreign and so new to me that I really did feel like, that child that goes to school for the very first day. That's how I felt. It was really, really weird. Anyway, so Steve and we unveiled, the tables. We tweaked, cleaned them up a little bit, put things up and what have you. On the Saturday, I actually had my iPad there. You might have seen it in the background in the video. And my Coco's Crochet was on loop all day, just the playlist for the podcast. So that way people had a visual of what we did as well, because there was a sign asking people if inviting people to subscribe. So then Steve and I would just, greeted some of the vendors. Steve sat in the back with his iPad and watched a movie. And, we had quite a few visitors that day, which was lovely, which I'll touch on in a moment, being family and friends, of course. And then, 3 o'clock came and we packed up and went home. Now, in the meantime, of course, we chatted with our neighbours and next to us, the store holders, and across from us. And there was a continued theme throughout it. I was the newbie and everyone was so kind. I think I was the only person there that might have been, on their very, very first market ever. They were very encouraging, and they were, talking about their experiences. And of course, they touched on what everyone has been saying, that every market is different. Some of them have been doing them for a year or so, some 3, 4, 5 years. Not this particular market, but markets in general. So that was pretty much, how the weekend went. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple of the highlights, because that's always a lot of fun. So the highlight of my weekend was Sunday morning. It would have been around maybe 11:45ish. All my children and their partners and my goddaughter and her baby and her husband all arrived at the same time. So it was just amazing. I know that my children had organised it because then they went out to lunch with their partners. But it was so nice that, my goddaughter arrived with a baby as well, and her husband, because everyone got to see each other, and it was just so heartwarming. And I think our, store was buzzing just because there was so much laughter and joy coming out of it. And then it got even better because our yarny friend, Mary Rose, she came, and I'm sorry I can't share anyone's photos. I wish I could. So Mary Rose came and she said, "Litsa," and I looked around and I went, oh my gosh, it was just such an amazing feeling meeting her. I'm still smiling, and we are actually going to have coffee together next week. So it was just so wonderful to meet one of, our yarny friends in real life. So that was a super duper highlight as well. So thank you for coming along. I cannot wait to catch up with you over coffee. Now, I have to say, like I touched on earlier, I can't express how much, I appreciate everyone's love and support, including all of our yarny friends, my yarny friends, and of course my family, and friends. You can't do it without people's support. So I just want to make sure everyone, understands how much I appreciate them. And then I've got here my favorite customer. Okay, if you had met her, she'd be your favorite human too. So imagine it, 4-year-old Miss. Her socks look like tutus. She's holding her baby doll, which I'm sure is her best friend, and her purse. So she had a little handbag with this, like little beaded. She's just so over the top, her mum said. With her, it's more is more. She just made me laugh, her mum. So she had her little handbag with all her coins in there, so all her money that she had. And she looked around and she looked around, and she bypassed all the little things that may have appealed to her, including the loveys and the water balloons, and she went straight for a coaster. And the reason was that when she had her next tea party, she wanted to have something to put under her cup. I absolutely loved that. So she got out all her little coins, including 50-cent pieces, and paid for it on her own. And she very, very, very smartly walked off, very proud of herself that she had bought something with her own money. So that she was my favorite customer, let me tell you. And then I had a moment. This was a fun one, and I have to share this with you. Lovely, 2 lovely ladies came in, checked everything out. You would think they might want a towel topper or a coaster perhaps, or even a bookmark, but they went to the water balloons. I said, oh wow, have you seen these before? This is how they work. Like, do you have children or grandchildren that you're buying them for? And they said, no, to wash the dishes. And I said, no, these are a toy. And they said, no, in our country, we use this shape and this material, so the yarn, the fiber, and we wash dishes. And I said, you can use it for anything you wish. By all means, please purchase it for that. And they did. They bought a set of the 3 water balloons, and they're using them to wash their dishes, which I think is awesome. So like a sponge, I guess. And then I have a favorite really moment. I was like, really, guys? There was a couple of people, actually, not just one. So I think 2 to 3 people separately that said to me, so is everything here for the dogs? And I'm very confused. When you have that moment where you think, I need to understand what they just asked me. So they asked me, is everything here that you've made for the dogs? And I said, no, what makes you think that? And then they pointed to my business card with Coco on it. I said, no, Coco is my best friend, and Coco's Crochet is named after her. You can give the dogs some of these things, but they're not made specifically for dogs. So I thought that was quite hilarious, and I really had to share that with you guys. Now, let's talk about the organisers and how the fate, my experience of it with the fate, the market, so that I don't, hold you here forever. So basically, I did ask if I can show you their photos. These are the organisers, for very hard-working people that put together 3 markets a year for the Sydney Artisans markets, and this was the first one for the year. I have known them for about 10 years, I must say, and that's not the the only reason why I joined them. It's because I thought it would be a good one to support. It's very local to me. It's only 10 minutes from my home in traffic. It's literally like the suburb that my mum lives in. So we're separated by 1 suburb in between. So, it had a few pluses. Not knowing, what other markets charge for stalls, because I really haven't looked into it that deeply, which I intend to do now. I thought $300 for 2 days did sound like a lot, but it was better than $180 a day, I thought, and I really did want to get the 2-day experience, so I signed up for both days. Now, they did try their very best to support us. They had Canva, what are they called? They had made up templates that we could use if we wanted to use for social media and that. But as you know, I'm quite technologically challenged. My children are very busy. If I had asked, I'm sure they would have helped me, but I didn't even consider asking them because I relied on their Instagram posts, for example. I don't really go on Facebook. So I had seen that they were posting there. They did market the workshop as well, so I just relied on them solely. Maybe that wasn't very smart on my behalf. But as I said, they tried their very best to support us that way. They did promise that there would be a minimum of 3,000 to hopefully 10,000 people expected to walk through the doors over, the couple of days. Unfortunately, that was not the case. So, it would have been nice if that many visited. In the end, we worked out with the neighbouring stallholders who were quite seasoned. They calculated that they would not have seen more than 200 to 300 people in the 2-day period. So that was a little bit deflating, I must say. But then we try to work out why. We hypothesize as to why. And this again has led me to learn something for future if I do book a market. The school holidays have just started, so people may have disappeared from Sydney. And also, it was the first weekend of the Royal Easter Show. So I'm guessing if people had the opportunity with maybe some long weekends coming in because of Easter, I'm not sure how they work it out. They definitely thought that that was going to be their first choice. And I don't blame them. People with children, they would be going to the show. So they were two of the reasons we felt could have been why, attendance was so low. And also the organisers did say that where they were holding it in that area, like the venue, they were also re-turfing the grounds, which meant there was no soccer games that weekend. So perhaps that was another reason why there was low attendance. But in saying all that, being an organiser of such a huge event, I think they said they were having about 50 vendors or stall holders. It would have been nice if they put a little bit more thought. I have to say, as a small, little piece of maybe, advice, I shouldn't, maybe not advice, but that they should have thought a little bit, more about the actual day that they're choosing. So I am going to make sure that I remember this. This is a hard lesson learned, that I need to be very clear on what the date is, and not just think, wow, I'm lucky I got a spot. It's not about that, guys. We're handing over a lot of money, so we need, some sort of, return for that. So by that time, Saturday afternoon, my whole thing was, I hope I make the rent. I kept calling, what we paid for the stall rent in my head. And also I had to calculate, I actually calculated a 12th of the amount that I paid for the insurance, because I figured, for the month of April, I will not be doing markets 12 times a year, guaranteed. But hopefully I will do 1 or 2 again. Let's see, time will tell. So as we said, attendance was around 300, 400 max over 2 days. Expected 3,000 to 10,000. Very, very different. So I did talk to you about my little lessons learned from there. Now, another huge lesson that I learned, and even from the video that I showed you, looking at it now, only 2 days later, I can tell that my area was very, very cluttered. I think less is more in this situation. I had signs everywhere. I had a sign, welcoming everyone. I didn't really have any real, there's no branding at all. I guess that's the word that people are using. But also there was just too much for your eyes to go to. I had signs everywhere. I had this sign with a damn it doll, so you can order. At the time, I thought that it was great that I had so much signage, as in before I started. I had a sign, with my iPad as high as I could get it, because, it's all about levels, I've been told, to subscribe. Another one that really, was, again, was another sign. Then I had a sign with the raffle prize. So, which I must say, the raffle did do very well, and the winner has been chosen. Then I had that sign, and then I had a sign to register for custom makes or for workshops. So, there was another sign, and that wasn't enough, guys. I had more signs. So then I had a sign, so where I had the bucket with the water balloons, I had a little sign there, so people knew what it was. At the time, I thought it was cutesy, but looking back, I don't think so. And then, to top it all off, I had all these signs everywhere. So these little chalkboards here, All of these were written up and placed in different areas. So now that I look at it, I think way too many signs. And just when you thought that I had enough clutter on the table, because I'm starting to call it clutter, guys, I thought, you know, where the tea towels were, I thought it'd be very cute to have a bowl with some lemons or limes, because my girlfriend Christy gave them to me, and I thought it would be very homely. Well, I don't know if that's the look that I'm going for anymore. Let's see. And then I had more. I had lists of price lists on the table next to everything. And then I also had my bookmarks with a book, which is another funny moment. Someone wanted to buy this book from me. Not the bookmarks that were there, but the book. I said, I'm sorry, the book's not for sale, but if you like to read, the bookmarks are. Anyway, I don't want to sound like a negative Nelly, because I'm definitely not. I'm telling you what I have learned in such a short space of time. For me, I think less is going to be more. So as I showed you, just the signs took up so much room. Luckily, I had 3 tables, right, guys? So next time, that will not be happening. I also noticed that everyone that had big ticket items, for example, Aussie Sandy, I was thinking of you all day yesterday. The lovely lady next to me, Sonia, she makes beautiful resin art, and she had tables there. Coffee tables and some jewelry. She has some earrings and other things, but it was the big ticket items. She was hoping to just sell one to make her rent for the day. She travels from Camden, which is over an hour away, and you know, all her petrol and tolls as well, so she really did need to sell one. And by about 2:30, it was just before we closed the shop, we both did a little happy dance, because she actually sold one of her most beautiful pieces, a floral table. The top was all flowers, and it took her like a week to make, and that was like $300+. So she actually, you know, was worth her while for coming out. I don't think she sold anything else, maybe some earrings, but that for her was enough. And that's a huge price. I mean, well worth it, that's not what I'm saying, but here I am trying to sell $5 items and, you know, failing, or people not wanting to buy them. So I realized that across from me there was a vendor or a stallholder with cork. So the material was cork, and they had handbags, and they were around $150 each on average, and the grandparents that were buying them for themselves wouldn't pay $10 for a lovey. And I'm not poo-pooing them, I'm just saying that they were happy to pay the big dollars, but just thought that that was rubbish, I think, in their mind, because it was just small items, handmade items, that they didn't really give much credit to. Next to me the day before, there was a beautiful leather goods belts. They were about $200 each, and I don't know how many they sold because I wasn't keeping an eye on them, but they would have, look, even one would have paid for their one day there, because they didn't come back 2 days. And the beautiful young lady next to me, I think it's velvet, double satin or velvet, oh my gosh, I don't want to say the wrong name, her swimwear and her hats and her like, you know, what you wear over your bikini, beautiful, beautiful quality. She didn't sell one thing. And, you know, she's been doing markets for a long time, whereas her partner was in Cronulla, which is a beachside suburb here in Sydney, so hopefully he did well. And that's her business. That's what she does to make a living. She usually sells online or at markets. There were jewelry stores. Someone was making doggy treats. There was another crocheter there, and she was just like me. We had very similar products. She was lovely, a lovely young girl, and she did have some amigurumi. We made sure we checked in with each other, and at the end of the day, she too said that she just scraped in to pay for the 2 days. I'm trying to think of what other big ticket items were there. Oh, there was a beautiful young girl, and I'll try to put in the description box her I think it's Crystal, her first name, Christy. She's beautiful. She does tufting. She's quite well known, I think, on TikTok, and if she has a YouTube channel, I'll also put that in the description box. And she has huge pieces that are worth thousands of dollars, and she had tiny pieces that, you know, like a little square, which was beautiful. I'm not taking away from that. It was a little like you know, hundreds and thousands, fairy bread, and that was around $40. And people would buy that because, you know, they were like, okay, this is good quality, I guess. Not that I'm saying I don't have good quality. I'm just thinking out loud that I think that if I do another market, which I'm hoping to do, And I was saying for winter I'd like to do beanies and blankets. I'm definitely going to be sticking to blankets around 40 inches, 40 by 40 or 100 by 100 centimeters. Don't want to make them any bigger than that, and maybe some rectangle shaped ones. I won't go for things like stars and things like that. I just want to produce some higher quality blankets, even if it's 3 or 4 pieces, 5 or 6 pieces, and then stick to some beanies, the ones that I love, no more than I'd say 4. So definitely the Divine hat. I'd say cat beanies because a lot of you have said they're great sellers at markets, and maybe another couple, and just keep it as simple as I can, my area, and as clutter free as possible. Now, in saying all that, I may not, hit the target again, but I am going to flip it completely and try something different and see if that works for me. Now, me personally, I'm not, amigurumi is not my strength. It is not an area that I ever want to say, okay, this is where I'm going to strive to succeed, because I know that, as I said, it's not my strength. I haven't practiced enough to say that my pieces are great quality. They're good, they're not great. And also this whole idea of, having to buy a whole other level of insurance is not something that I'm really interested in, although I know a lot of people do use not the safety eyes, but embroidery eyes. But I don't think amigurumi is a way that I will be going in the future. So let's see how we go. Let's plan for now. Let's pencil in blankets and beanies for the winter period. So I'm very happy to take suggestions from you for some very beautiful patterns, not something that takes a very long time. I personally am going to make some blanket yarn blankets using the corner to corner stitch. I don't like any other square. I don't like granny squares in blanket yarn. I have tried different ones, and I still think that the corner to corner is the best one for that. But if you have any other suggestions for any other stitches that are beautiful and quick, to make some blankets, it doesn't matter what thickness yarn, I would absolutely love to hear them. Now, as far as beanies go, I do have quite a few in my repertoire thanks to Beanie of the Week, so I think I should be okay with that. Now, so that's pretty much the plan for future markets. Now, I've written here that being my first market, I was very excited, which we all know. I was not sure what to expect, absolutely not at all, which was great. I did meet some lovely people, both stall holders and customers, I have to say that. The season stall holders, they did tell me that this was one of the poorest markets as far as attendance goes, which we touched on earlier, and they told me do not be disheartened, and I have taken that on board. Very good advice. Now, some of the stock that's left over, including coasters, towel toppers, bookmarks and cup cozies, I have reached out to our P&C because the Mother's Day stall is coming up, and they've asked me to send in some photos of how I'm going to present it, and I might be able to once again try to sell them on consignment through the school Mother's Day stall. They were very happy actually to hear that I did want to offer some crochet pieces, so that's going to be a nice avenue for my little pieces that were left over. So that was nice to hear from them that they were interested. I'll let you know as we go, over the weeks leading up to Mother's Day, what the outcome is for that. Now, let's get on to, let me have a sip of my coffee, guys. Can you hear my croaky throat? It's because the last 2 days I haven't stopped talking. Cheers to us, guys. That feels good. Okay, so I'm going to tally here the total number of items, and then what I sold, how I sold it, because some was on square and some was cash, very little cash. Lucky I have the option for people to pay by card. I don't imagine I would have made very many sales if I didn't have that. So let's get started with our tally here. So in total, I sold 47 items over the 2 days. The lavender flowers, I sold 8. I had 11, so that's pretty good. The carnations, I sold 2. I had 8. Now, I'm not sad at all about that because I have to make some more lavender for my son for his home and some more carnations for my daughter's girlfriend's order. But the ones that are left over, Steve can take to his mum. at the nursing home, so that's perfect. So next I sold 2 scrunchies, 3 of the bookmarks. Now let me tell you, there were so many scrunchies. I hope the school wants to take some for Mother's Day. That would be awesome. Okay, back on track. 3 bookmarks, 1 medium-sized lovey, 2 small loveys. I gifted one to my goddaughter's baby. They wanted to pay for it. I said no way. And my sister fell in love with the Darth Vader. So Nicole, that's coming to you. The water bottle holder, I sold 1. The coasters, I sold 4 of the sunflowers, and the others I sold 1 to our, cutest customer in the world. I sold 1 cup cozy, 1 card holder. The face scrubbies, it says sold out on my square, which is great because the large ones, all 10 sold. None of the small ones, but all of the large ones. The hot water bottle cover, this is my daughter-in-law's one. I finally put the heart on it for her so she can have that today. I sold 1. I sold 1 face washer. The water balloons, I sold 2. One of them is going to be washing dishes. They're going to wash dishes with it. The large market bag, I only had 1, and that says sold out. I love reading that, so that was 1. And I sold 1 crochet kit. So I had kits, which I'll show you in the workshop video, with yarn and all of the, bits and pieces you need to crochet. So in total, we said 47 items. And now I'll tally up how much, I made on those days. So on the Saturday, I had 9 customers. The first customer was at 11:07, and we closed at 3. So it's pretty much close to 3 both days, the last customer. So 8 of the customers purchased on Square and 1 paid by cash. And then on Sunday, there were 8 customers, 4 of each. 4 paid by Square and by card, and 4 paid in cash. And the first customer was at 12:10 p.m. That's crazy, right? Now on Saturday, on the Square, the purchases tallied to $219 and $60 in cash, which made it $279, and the fees for the Square were $4.17. So that was $274.43 made on that day. Now remember, guys, I live in Sydney, Australia, so this is all Australian currency. Now on Sunday, the Square, in total, there was $178 in purchases, $33 in cash, which tallied to $211 less $3. Is it 29 or 39 in fees? 39. So it is quite minimal, the fees, which is good. And that tallied to $207.61. Now the sales in total were $482.44. Now I'm yet to be paid for the workshops because that went through the Sydney Artisans Instagram site. But I'm guessing when they take their fees out, I'm going to calculate it at $15 per person, 6 paid that way. So I added another $90 there. And that brings it to $572.44, less $300 for the stall hire or the rent for 2 days. And then I've put in for the insurance, I calculated $185 for the year, less, divided by 12, so $1,542. I don't know how accurate that is, but for, the purposes of this calculation, we'll do that, which leaves me with a profit of $257.02. So let's round it off to $257. Look, it's not horrible. I'm not going to lie to you, it's so much better than not making the money that I paid out. If the 3,000 customers or people to walk through were expected, and let's say double had bought, it would have been even nicer. I would have guesstimated more than double would have bought. But at this stage, we can't predict what could have happened. We should be happy with what has happened. And to come out with $257 and meeting so many wonderful people and meeting the rent and paying for the insurance and getting 2 free coffees, overall, I'd say it was quite a good weekend. Yes, a lot of you will say, but Litsa, all that time, all that yarn, I know, but I was going to be crocheting and buying yarn anyway, and that's how I look at it, which I think most of us that do markets do look at it that way, because we are addicted to crocheting, let's be real. So I think that that's all I had to catch you up on, guys. I know this video's gone a little bit longer than expected, but you know, I really wanted to share my thoughts with you. I'm so happy that I've been able to share this with you, because sometimes having you guys as a sounding board really does help. So please offer any advice or, you know, anything you have to say. You know, I know that a lot of you do markets, and I know that a lot of you do them, you know, overseas. They're called craft fairs, I think, and it may be a very different way that they operate over there. But over here, this was my first experience. You know, if I do go ahead and do another one or some more, I will be sharing them with you. And I wonder what that experience will be like, because every single stall holder said that every single market has a different feel to it and a different experience, which once again does excite me, because you wouldn't want to have the same experience every single time. I am going to tweak things, as I've touched on now. Of course, I will be, you know, keeping you in the loop and, you know, in the picture the whole entire way. And I really do appreciate that you indulge me in allowing me to share my journey with you. I hope you're all keeping well, and I know that I'll be seeing you very soon. And until I do, please take care. Bye bye, everyone.